whereas, you know, he's getting very sensitive if anything is said about him.
No, I don't think so at all. I'm on the Privileges Committee, and we had this discussion last week, and the Ceann pointed out that he was going to issue proceedings against what Paul Murphy said, you know, that he went too far beyond his privileges. But as I pointed out to Sean O'Farrell, what was said about the Gardaí, the substance of what Paul Murphy said, was said by the judge in the case, it was said by Paul's barrister, and it was more or less repeated in different language by Leo Varadkar after the case was over. And I asked the Ceann Corla if Paul had stood up and quoted any one of those three instead of saying what he said, would he be abusing his privilege? And I was told absolutely not.
Yes, so but he went further in his language, and I don't want to repeat that language here. And this is the point about politicians cannot be, if you like, judge and jury. They should have free speech.
No, I'm not going to repeat it, but what I will say about what's being said here and the point of Paul's intervention was to call for a public inquiry. Now, you cannot do that in the Dáil without saying why. I have stood up several times looking for a public inquiry into the case of Shane O'Farrell, Lucia O'Farrell's son, who was killed in Monaghan. Other people have stood up looking for a public inquiry from Mary Boyle, Garda Fallon.
And let me
Unless
ask
you can
this
say that in the
then.
Dáil, you have to be able to say why.
But let me ask this question in relation to what Sean O'Farrell was talking about, because, you know, it is a very different Dáil in terms of the numbers and the makeup and the way it's been working. There is a lot of resentment, particularly from the main parties, particularly against solidarity, people before profit. You don't have to go very far before you hear people giving out and muttering.
Perhaps that's because we're being very effective in being opposition.
Is the point. Sean O'Farrell said there, no, we must make sure we're listening to contrarians, but do you also accept that there has to be more done as a member of the Committee on Procedure and Privileges to sanction TDs who abuse their privilege to speak freely?
I haven't seen any TD or heard any TD abuse their privilege to speak freely.
Ever?
I have never seen them abuse their privilege. I could interpret Pascal Donoghue, for example, telling me that I don't, more or less telling me I have no breaks to say I was ever called an abuse of privilege, but I see it as part of the banter and the discourse between us. He gets annoyed with me, I get annoyed with him, but he gets annoyed with me because I effectively question him on some of his economic policies. Now, I could call that an abuse of his privilege, but I don't, and I don't complain about it. I think where parliamentarians are concerned, we have to be able to be open and honest with each other as well. And there are two sides of a coin here when you're talking about a discourse between the government parties and the left.
OK, well, let's hear from Mary Butler on this, because I think when the